Okay, hey guys, welcome back to the podcast, Yin and Yang Healing with Kirsten and Dur. Today we're going to talk about emotional causes of insomnia and chronic fatigue. And Dur is going to lead us on that conversation today.
Well,
So,
yeah, I feel like part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because like I could sit here all day and like talk about like, oh, like here's some like techniques you could do like to get a better sleep and whatever, like for physical things. But like nobody
yeah,
really talks about the emotional components that are affecting sleep. And it's like,
yeah,
I mean, like people get sit there and be like, oh, it's just I can't turn my mind off, or I like have anxiety, or I'm stressed, or whatever. But literally there is a root cause to all that stuff. So I thought it'd be kind
yeah.
of cool to talk about those kind of
I think
things.
I'm so excited for this podcast because, like on the sleep stuff, because I think you're so right. Like, I work in the natural like health industry, and like nobody is ever like talking about that piece, and it's such a huge component to sleep. Like, what is it really truly that's like keeping you up at night? It's not just that your body's broken. We have to like start
Yeah,
shifting the mindset like on that. So I'm excited.
100%. And I know that in like I think it was our first episode, one of my tips was like get your devices out of your room and whatever.
Right.
And like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that is like a physical thing that you could do, but it's technically also a little bit energetic.
Yeah.
Um
100%.
and yeah, and it is like you said, it's like you could do all these like physical things, take supplements or like exercise or whatever it is, but if you don't address the root cause.
You're still not
So
gonna sleep. Like no matter, like that's the thing, is like people come in and they like literally on their 20th like supplement for sleep, and it's like, hello, like, yoo-hoo, like subconscious, hey, like that's not working. Like that's not working. Obviously, it's not working if you have to try that many things. And I always tell people, like, if it's a physical problem and you come in and you try a sleep product, maybe try one or two. Like sleep stuff is like particular to people. But if you try like one or two products, you should find your sweet spot and then like start sleeping. If it really is
mhm.
truly a physical issue, you should be good to go.
Well, and the other
Most people, it's more
component to
chronic.
this too is when you start healing the emotional, energetic, spiritual components, you
Yeah.
will literally just like naturally heal the physical components. So it's like it's just like choosing differently, for example, right?
Yeah.
So like I'll just list out a couple of the most common things that I hear from clients. And like also I
Yeah.
just want to preface this whole episode too with the fact that like this topic directly correlates and relates to your relationships, which is part of the reason why I feel like it's like such a perfect combination with our two niches. But
Oh yeah, 100%. Like tell me you've never had like a conflict with like your spouse or your best friend or your sibling and like could not can fall asleep the same night.
yeah, totally, exactly. So anyway, like some of these like things that people typically come to me with is like, well, anxiety is a huge one, but there's so much that can go behind that. Like that's that's basically a podcast on itself, but like insomnia,
Yeah.
lack of energy, chronic fatigue syndrome, and just like fatigue in general. And like
Yeah.
I can speak to this from my own experience, which is part of the reason why I got into this whole niche, where I would sleep for like 12 hours, like based
Yeah.
on the clock. But I would wake up feeling like completely exhausted and just like I was just basically tired all the fucking time. So
Yeah.
I would like relate this to like the chronic fatigue syndrome slash just fatigue in general. And like if you
Yeah.
look at the typical emotional root causes to these, it's feelings of like despair and hopelessness and like trying to prove yourself, um possibly even the loss of will to live, and like hopelessness, helplessness, and like loss of will, like that, like again, like we could have a whole episode about that because like there is like
Mhm.
we have in our modality like a full process on like restoring that, but like resisting your life, and just
Mhm.
like feeling burnt out in your job or your relationship. So
Yeah.
um and this was like, if I go back to like my story, for example, this was exactly what was happening. Like I was working this corporate job, I was like managing this retail store, helping that company like open up a new store as well. My relationship was in the fucking shitter. And like
Mhm.
it's kind of funny because it's like it all was connected. It's all connected. And like going back to like the loss of will to live, I literally was having like suicidal thoughts as well. It's like, if this is my fucking life, I don't want to live. And
Yeah, and,
that
when you're in it, it's like when you're in it, it's really hard to, like, not be in it. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to see outside of that and then say, like, "Hey, wait a minute, like, let me find a solution here." You're just, like, in it and you're like, "This sucks." And you it's just like that helpless, hopeless feeling just kinda, like, takes over.
well, 100%. It's like there's a couple things that like, and like this is something that like we do for like people that don't know about sit and and like how it works. Um is like breaking down like false beliefs and like projections and
Yeah,
judgments about your situation. And like for me
yeah,
in that situation, I was like in this marriage where I had this belief because of what other people fucking say, what society says of like marriage is hard work and like you have to work at it and blah blah blah. But like I never considered, and it is like I agree, like relationships are like hard work, but I never considered the
like, it
fact that,
is, but there's, like, a threshold of, like, where it's, like, too hard, you know?
well, I never considered
It's,
the
like, not
fact
working.
that like maybe I just made a wrong choice in the past and like this is not my path. Like this
Yes.
person is maybe not my path. And
Yeah.
looking back at it, it's so fucking true. And then also the work part of it. It's like I was doing this job because I was good at it. It's like people like my family would tell me like, well, you should just do this because you're good at it and blah blah blah. And I
Same.
was good at it, but it was draining my fucking soul.
Yeah.
And that experience was like when I experienced my very first sit session, and it literally changed my entire life. So I
Like,
ended
your
up
life, yeah.
quitting the job. Like I was working at this job for like 15 fucking years, like corporate
Wow.
management, like salary, benefits, all this,
The whole
it's like
package.
stability, right?
Yeah.
And quit that job, quit the marriage of 5 years, quit the city. I was living in Vancouver for like 8 years at the time, fucking left, moved out to the middle of fucking nowhere on the side of a mountain and started like learning about like energetic healing and emotional healing. And here I
Yeah.
come, here I am. But anyway, I guess just
Beautiful.
like sharing that story because I just want people to
So,
know
like,
that.
have you like, when that was all happening and you weren't able to, like, sleep, like, what were you trying to help you sleep before you found out, like, the emotional, like, stuff?
um I it's
Like, what did you
honestly
try? What worked? What didn't work?
yeah, it's a little bit hard to remember now because it was so long ago now, but I do remember taking I was taking some sort of supplement. I think it was melatonin. So I was doing that. I was also I was also trying to use like I had this lady that would make me these marijuana chocolates. So this is like
Yes.
edibles, and I was like, okay,
Yes.
that's sweet because it's like it's more of like a body high than a mental
Right.
high.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah.
was like, that'll just like put me to sleep. And then oh, I was also trying to get back into meditation because like before all of this, I was like super meditation-y and like would fucking go into like trances and was super healthy. And so I
Right.
tried to do that, but that like was so hard, which makes a lot of sense because when you're in that headspace, it's really hard to meditate.
It really is because because it's, like, usually emotional, like, the blockage there is just so big and it's so deep and it's just, like, it's impenetrable. It's, like, no matter what you do, it's just so hard to, like, break that down until you have the awareness on, like, what it is.
Yeah, and the other part too that I was doing was like I was doing some acupuncture and some chiropractic work. Like I've never really been big on like pharmaceutical drugs, so I never did take
That's
that
good for
route.
you. Yeah.
thankfully. But I know that there are people that have, like, I've literally worked with people that have been on pharmaceutical drugs for their sleep, and after like working together, they are totally off of it. So it
Yeah.
absolutely does help to like do this kind of work. But
And like I was just gonna say, like just coming from my industry of like working in like, vitamin retail, I hear a lot of people who are on like those sleep drugs, right? And there's so many side effects to that. They wake up feeling groggy, or they just like have kind of lost like their zest for life, their personality. Like you get a lot of side effects with that. And like how cool is it to do like the emotional work without any side effects? Like even supplements, like, there's not really like an adverse side effect to
yeah,
doing
I
the
would say
emotional work
like
except for like some hard work.
yeah, some emotional release. But
Yeah.
I would say like there definitely is a place for it. Like for
Yeah.
example, like right now I take magnesium glycinate.
Yeah.
And simply because it just like really relaxes your body but doesn't affect your
Oh
sleep
yeah.
cycle.
Everyone needs magnesium. So I'm like all for that. I take magnesium like every day. Like if you're if you're a person with breathing, you need magnesium.
Yeah,
Like
okay,
for
so
real.
since you like work in the in like the natural food store,
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts and perceptions on things like melatonin and GABA and stuff like that that people typically go for.
Ugh. Yeah. So when people like come to my store and they're like, I used to refer them to like GABA or L-theanine or like there's really great sleep blends out there with like herbs and melatonin and GABA and like, it's got all this stuff, right? But just like coming from my own experience, I had insomnia for like a year. And it was like after a breakup, I just kept ruminating and thinking on all of that stuff, right? Of like the relationship. Um, and so like the only way I could fall asleep was to take like 1,500 milligrams of GABA. That's a lot. That's 3 capsules of 500 milligram caps. Like that's a lot of GABA. Okay. And I would like take a product called Ortho Sleep, and I would take those together in tandem. And it had melatonin, it had like other um like amino acids in there, and then it would have like herbs. And I needed that to sleep. Like I was so addicted. And then I luckily like I met a friend and she was like, you can't like keep on doing that. Like you're kind of messing up like your system by like relying on that. And I was like, oh, I know. And I was like, but I can't sleep like without it. And that was kind of the same time I was starting to do like the emotional work around like why I couldn't sleep, around why I was ruminating about that breakup. And um yeah, so when people like come, I kind of use that experience of like, if you can take these sleep products, there's so many of them. Like we have a huge section on sleep. You can take those products, no problem. But it's like, is that getting to the root of the issue of why you cannot sleep? Because if you get off of that sleep product, are you going to be able to sleep sound without it? Or are you
Right.
going to be like panicking and be like, no, 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 like I need it, I need it, I need it. And you get kind of like addicted to taking these things that like force you to fall asleep. But it's
Mhm.
like, is there a deeper issue? Are your, physically, emotionally, like are your adrenals like maxed out and your cortisol is like so high and you're like, stressing like at bedtime? Is your blood sugar like out of balance like before bedtime? Like what's the reason why you're not falling asleep? And then like let's go from there. And I'll usually let people know that a lot of times it is like more emotional, why they can't shut their brain off or why they wake up 3 a.m. every morning, right? I usually let them know that there's an emotional piece, and then I'll steer them towards like more medicinal mushrooms, like reishi,
And
for
then you look up
example.
the chart.
And then I usually like
Nutrition
look up
chart.
the chart. Yeah, I think the 3 p.m. is like, or 3 a.m. is gallbladder, isn't it?
I normally have it behind me, but
I know. I'm like, I normally have it too. Where is it? I think I
3
have it here.
3 a.m. is liver, yeah, liver gallbladder.
Yeah.
Could also be lung, which actually makes a lot of sense now because and for and like for anyone that's listening that doesn't actually know what the fuck we're talking about right now, it's like we're referring to the different meridians of the body and how they relate to the different organs, because that stores your emotions, which
Right.
then affects your body. So anyway,
Yeah.
um yeah, like 3 a.m. This is like, sorry mom if you ever listen to this, but this is my mother. And it's grief. It's grief. It's like, I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't realize. It could be like grief, grieving like a piece of your life or like someone else or
Yeah.
a
Mhm.
situation or something like that.
Yes.
It's not always like such a straightforward path. Like our subconscious is so like
I
metaphorical
know.
sometimes.
And I was gonna say, like, on that too, that you mentioned that, like, because okay, so you have like the TCM meridians, and it's usually like certain things. So it's like if you're not sleeping, then it's like something. Then like there could also be other things that happen where you maybe have like a physical injury, or maybe you have like some sort of weakness physically that came to like that part of your body, like physically, of why
Right.
you can't sleep, right? And the emotion, like maybe it's like you can't sleep because your blood sugar like can't balance. And it's not what you think of like your traditional TCM meridians and emotions there. It might be like something else, like another like meridian creating like an imbalance in that. So it's really like it's a good starting point to look at the meridians and say, hey, like maybe what's going on there like emotionally. But sometimes your body is like a little more complex than just, hey,
Yeah,
meridian.
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it all comes back again to like what we're talking about is like these stored energies in your body that can create and make your subconscious, which is basically your body, think
Yeah.
that it's
Mm,
in danger. It's in, and then
yeah. So
going
then
back to
it's,
what you said, your adrenals, like you're in stress mode, like you're just, your nervous
yeah,
system
because
is not relaxed.
right.
So
Your body like can't get out of like fight or flight because something's like getting triggered there in the subconscious. So it's like no wonder you can't sleep because your body's just like constantly like being like triggered into like that like wow mode. Your nervous
mhm.
system can't just like chill and like be calm and know that it's safe.
So I'll like go into a story about one of my
Yeah. Love it.
past clients here that is like this all kind of relates to. And basically when she came to me, she's like, I can't sleep through the night. Like I'll sleep like 2 or 3 hours and then I'm up and I'm like, just basically she's trying to like just do stuff around the house, keep herself busy, maybe. Anyway, she wasn't sleeping like through the night. She had like so much anxiety, was like
Yeah.
trying to be like the best mom, the best wife, the best whatever. And working together, we realized that the root of it was in growing up. Like there was this like standard with her parents that she had to live up to.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was the root of this anxiety. It's like, she's like, I never feel good enough. And once we addressed that, she literally went, she's like, I normally can't even like sleep just in my regular bed, like let alone somewhere else. But she went on a camping trip in a tent trailer and she's like, I slept solid through the night. And I was like, holy shit, that's fucking amazing. And just like
Like what
watching
a
her track her
miracle.
sleep. Yeah.
Like honestly, like I don't like people I don't like to let like those things go like unrecognized as like, oh, she's just sleeping good now. Like that's a miracle because the lack of sleep is such a detriment to your health. So like how amazing is that that you can like recalibrate your body like that quickly
Well,
just
and
from
she
like
was doing
figuring out
like
what the root is.
the classic, like I feel like so many people in this day and age are just like, oh, well, I'll just use a little marijuana to like chill
Yeah.
out because that's how you
Yeah.
feel like when you're awake, you feel like super chill. But actually, like alcohol and marijuana, they while they might help you fall asleep, they don't allow your body to go into a deep, like REM restorative sleep. So
Yeah.
um and so
Because your
she was
body's
like
gotta like
using that.
focus on like processing like all that alcohol.
Yeah. And same with
Or like substance, like even like marijuana, like your liver's gotta like process all that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like anyway, she was just kind of like, my hope is that I don't have to use substance anymore to like fall asleep. And
Yeah.
after we worked together for like 8 weeks. She was like, she's like, my whole life, she's like, I've never done any sort of like thing with like energy or whatever. Like, I didn't even know what the fuck this was all about when I started it. And she's like, but now
Yeah.
I'm taking like her relationship with her daughter also improved as well because she realized that she was repeating this pattern from her
Oh,
parents,
yeah.
holding her daughter to this higher standard. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And it's just that small awareness where she's just like, oh my God, like,
Isn't
and
that
so
so amazing? Like this work, like how it works like that. Like you have a session on like one issue that's like you're like me and I gotta fix this issue for me. But then you start to like you just like open up this like portal of like new awarenesses and then you're like, holy shit. Like I this pattern and like now I'm passing it down and like now you just have like a whole new realm of like healing. Like it's wild. I
100%.
love it.
And that's a huge reason why I like to incorporate generational healing into
Yeah.
my program with people, because I feel like people don't realize like how much they are taking on, like from their family, what
Yeah.
they've been taught, all that kind of stuff. And it's like,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this and if you are like experiencing something like this and you are thinking about doing some kind of healing like this, you are the generational pattern breaker.
Yes. Amen. Cheers to the generational
And we
pattern
are
break.
here to help you, baby.
Yeah.
But anyway, she went off and she like started taking Reiki classes, and she's like, I'm gonna make a whole career out of this now. I'm like, holy shit. So from someone who
Oh,
like didn't know anything about energy and energy healing, who's like now like doing that as a career, just
yeah.
absolutely wild.
That's so funny because that was like me after the first session. I was like, how do I learn how to do this? Because it is game changing. It really is. And like some of my clients now, like that I've seen like multiple times, so they're on like 5, 6, 7 sessions, they kind of like know better now. They know like even my sister, she had like these physical symptoms popping up, and instead of like freaking out and like trying to do all these things, she like contacted me right away. She's like, I need a session. Because she like it's programmed in her brain now of like it's her brain is wired now to be like, okay, these physical symptoms are happening. What's going on there emotionally? Let me like work that out so that
Yeah,
I can
that's
like be so that
amazing.
I can like be healthy faster instead of like suffering and suffering and suffering and trying to like figure it out.
Yeah, it's like we're we're like so programmed by our society now that like
Yeah.
in the way of
And
like, okay, you have a symptom, get this thing to basically cover it up, and they're treating the symptom
yes,
and not the root cause.
that's right.
And it's like, do you want to live
And
your life that way? I
I was
don't.
gonna say, like, if you like come to a program like this or even do a one-on-one on like sleep, um, let's just say there's a bit of a physical issue as well and an emotional issue. Like maybe there is a bit of a blood sugar issue and like what you're eating at night. The beauty of like muscle testing is like you can like pinpoint that. You know what I mean? Like even if it is
Mm-hmm.
physical, you can say like, well, what is it about the like is it stress? Is it cortisol? Is it inflammation? Is it blood sugar? And then we can pinpoint, okay, what do we need to do? Okay, your body wants a little bit of like protein like at nighttime,
Yeah.
to satiate you like throughout the night. So it's like you can, even if it is like a bit of physical stuff, you can still like pinpoint it like muscle testing and just get there a bit quicker,
100%. Like
smoother.
I definitely healed a lot of physical ailments through all this. So
Yeah.
obviously sleep is going to help your body like heal and restore, but like
Hmm.
the emotional release will help you get to the root of that so you're able to do that. But like for
Yeah.
example, I was like overweight. I had this issue with my knee, like I like years and years ago I pulled out my knee playing soccer, but
Yeah.
like this was this recurring knee issue. And knee, let me just tell you, knees in itself is a whole emotional
It's yeah,
emotional root cause
knees are very
moving
like
forward.
yeah, a very fascinating one. But I find the knees too are ones where it's like it could be the moving forward, it could be like fear of like moving forward in that. But it's one of those tricky ones where it's also like if you have an injury there and you've got like grief per se, that grief could just like migrate its way like to the knee. I find that wherever there's like weakness in the body physically, whatever kind of needs to be resolved, kind of like the emotions kind of like migrate there. Like they're in like
Hmm.
that meridian, but they kind of like migrate there to get your attention because now knee injury like never heals itself. So
Yeah,
it's
it
a
definitely migrates for sure. I mean, there was, yeah, the knees and well, if you want to talk about migrating, like, okay, so
yeah, let's talk about my let's go on a tangent on migrating.
like so okay, so overweight, knee problems, like just not being able to sleep in general, which later on I found out was also linked to like mold toxicity
Right.
exposure. huge. And
That is a huge one. Yeah. We should have it. I know that's like not part of our thing, but we should maybe like talk on that.
like, yeah, like we have
Cool.
so many things to talk about that like basically everyone listening and watching just needs to subscribe because we got
Yeah.
so much shit. We got
Yeah. We
so
have so
much
many good things to talk about.
and then like just like not choosing like not choosing a good diet
Yeah.
put into my body as well. So like all these things combined was like making my sleep pretty shitty and then like affecting my body in all these different ways. And then like it got to the point where I knew in my heart that like I had to make a change, but I had so much resistance and my body was like, bitch, if you're not going to listen, I am going to fucking show you. So then randomly one day I discover
Mhm.
a huge bald spot on my head. And like this was actually just recently, and I think it's more related to the mold toxicity.
Yeah.
But well, that and
Or
not
or
choosing good foods.
yeah, or like a perceived loss of some kind.
Yeah, and well, and yeah, that there was like that, and so that was like the emotional, that was part of the emotional root to that. But
Mhm.
that was my body's way of being like, yo, motherfucker, I know that you feel this inside when I'm like, yo, this is not what I want, but you're eating it anyway. And so
Yeah.
she's like, okay,
It's
let me show
funny.
you. And it
It's
freaked
funny
me
how
the
the
fuck
body
out.
does that. It's like do like keep getting like your attention. I'm gonna keep doing it. And it's funny you say that, like, because it was like your hair fell out, right? Like alopecia, you
Yeah,
mean?
I had like a huge bald spot. And then it was like I started seeing like other little spots for me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
dying.
That was like how my sister like came to this work because she had one in her part. And she's like, I'll just flip my hair. And then it like showed up in her other part. And she's like, okay, I'll just wear my hair up in a ponytail. And it showed up in the back.
Oh my
And
God.
her, she was like, okay, clearly my body is trying to like get my attention and I can no
Mhm.
longer like avoid this.
Yeah. And
So
that's
when
like,
things are like persistent like that, it's actually a gift. I always tell people, I'm like, this is a gift to you from your body trying to communicate, saying, like, check under the hood. Something's going
and
on.
once you start doing this work, you become more and more in tune with your body and
Yeah.
you start trusting you and your body start trusting each other a lot more. And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
you can start tuning in and like, I know that a lot of people can feel it. I know they can feel it,
Yeah.
but they ignore it because it's
Yeah.
like, it's very subtle to start. And if you
Yeah.
don't fucking listen, your body will give you something drastic so that you do listen.
100%. Mhm.
So this is a call out for everyone to start listening to your damn body. It's like,
Yes.
and I also just want to say too that it's, I would say if you're not like practicing it on a daily basis, it might be a little like flip. Like, and you'll look back and you'll be like, oh yes, I did feel that, but in the moment I didn't quite recognize it because it was just boop.
Yeah, even like with some of my clients, like my sister last night when we were doing a session, like she was saying, like, actually, like I had these symptoms, like very minor, like way back when, like quite a few years ago. And it's like, yeah, it's interesting because it's just a little blip. So you don't really like notice it like at that time. But then you're like, actually, wait a minute. It did like start back then. And now it's like built and built and built. And now it's this like big, huge, like mountain
Mm-hmm.
of a symptom or multiple symptoms.
Well, I guess like since we're kind of on the topic, we may as well like explain a little bit of like how to figure that out, how to follow it. Like, let's talk a little bit about muscle testing.
Okay. Well, this is your episode. So why don't
So,
you
I
share
mean,
some
I just
information
feel
with
like
us
this
about
is
that?
so important and it is a piece of homework that I give to clients a lot because it's like we just said, like it's so important to start feeling and following that blip that you feel.
Yeah.
Um because it will lead you on the path that will help you get out of all these blocks. So it can be as simple as like you know in your mind like I don't want to do this or I don't want to whatever it is. I don't want to be with this person. I don't want to do this job or whatever it is. But you have your internal tape saying, oh, but you have to do this, or you should do this.
Right.
If you're noticing within that you're saying I have to or I should, then you're going against your inner knowing and that path that's right for you. And so anyway, I feel like I feel like this is really cool to talk to you about this, because you do muscle testing totally different than I do. I'm very
Right.
much a swayer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that will do like this
Yeah, there's a
thing,
lot of, yeah. Well, I do a
but
lot of like in-person sessions. And so I kind of stopped doing it where you like hold your arm out and then you like press down on the arm. I kind of stopped doing that because, as you know, I'm muscle testing a lot of questions. And like people's
Mhm.
arms are like, I'm tired. And I'm like, okay, well, it's hard to know if it's like accurate. And then you're telling them to like resist. And they're like, I am. And I'm like, you're not. Like, you're not
Yeah.
resisting my push. So I just started doing it the way that I do it virtually. And I learned this from my friend who does like similar work. And I just like put my like my finger on my thumb and I just rub it like back and forth. And when it doesn't move, that's the weakness.
Right.
Like for me. So yeah, I find that to be like pretty easy and like just effective. And like I like it too, because like sometimes in a session I'll like muscle test a couple like extra things. And I just kind of like do it like kind of quietly while my clients are talking, you know.
Yeah. And I like to do, well, you guys will, my head will get chopped off, but I just like
Yeah,
to
show us.
stand here. You just stand and you just like ask your body, am I going to go backwards or forwards? And so to just kind of preface that, like I always first ask like, body show me yes, body show me
Yeah.
no. Because I find that my body switches every day. Like every day
Yeah,
it's different.
mine's pretty consistent, but like every once in a while it's like opposite. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. So yeah, I always do
Yeah.
that too. It's like
So I calibrate, and
yeah.
then yeah, and then I just ask the question, like, is this physical? Is it emotional? Is it both?
Wait, I have okay, I just want to like back up a smidgen because like a lot of my clients are like, no, like I want you to muscle test me. And like they're not like for us, it's like kind of second nature because that's what we do. It's like muscle testing. I like literally muscle test like every single day. So it's like, oh, like no problem. But like my sister, she's like doing it more. She's like, oh, like I feel like I'm getting better at it, but like I'm not sure sometimes. And like even I have like other clients who are like, yeah, like I try, but like I'm not sure. And so I think a good way to practice before you start getting into like, is it physical or emotional or like getting kind of like deeper, like muscle test, like pick up an apple and be
Right.
like, like is like, yes or no, like, is this good for me right now to eat, like to consume? Yes or no.
Mhm.
Pick out a shirt in your closet and say like, ask your body, yes or no. Like start having fun with it, little playful things of like muscle testing, you
Yeah,
know,
that's a really good point. Like
my
test
family
things that
invited me for
don't really
dinner. Should I
matter.
go? Yes or no? Like, you know what I mean? But having fun with like the smaller things. And then once you're getting comfortable with that muscle testing and you're getting confident with like your answers and they're consistent and like you're feeling good, then I feel like maybe transition over into asking a bit deeper, like is something physical or emotional?
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, this is you're so right. I'm glad that you backtracked on that, because this is so fucking common. And I remember like first learning this, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, I can't really tell if it's a yes, is it no,
Me too.
because you're not used to it. It's just like I was
Yeah.
saying, like it's like a blip, and you're not really used to it. You're not used to that feeling and following it. But if you do this and you do it first for things that don't really matter, like if you chose to eat the apple versus not eating the apple, probably not a huge thing is going to happen, right?
Yeah. You probably
But
already gonna eat it anyways before you muscle tested it. You know what I mean?
yeah, I just want to say though, for anyone who's like going to start doing this, just fucking trust the answer. Just do whatever your body tells you, because that is what's going to start building that muscle and start building the trust. Because
Yeah.
if you test, like, let's say you're testing the apple, and in your mind you're like, well, I kind of don't really want it, but then your body's like, yes, it will create more for us today. And then you're like, well, but I don't really want it. So then you don't have it. Your body's gonna be like,
Yeah.
fuck you, bitch. Like, why are you even asking me then?
Pretty much.
And
And
then
then I find like the more that like it's just that you test it 10 times to be like, well, like, best out of 10, like
yeah.
best out of 5. I feel like then that's when the answers start to get skewed because you're not going with like that initial like way of the body, and the body is kind of like, well, screw you. Like, I'm gonna give you
Mhm.
mixed signals now because you're not like leaning in and trusting like that first.
And I want to tell a little story about how powerful this can be for your life if you start practicing it and then applying it to bigger and bigger things in your life and actually
Yeah.
following it. So, when I first started learning this, I was doing like what we were talking about, testing my food, testing like that kind of shit. But there
Yeah.
was one moment where, so at the time when I was learning sit, I had to travel to and from Edmonton, which is like 12-hour drive through the fucking mountains, each way.
I
And
still
it was
can't
in the
believe
middle
you
of
did that.
winter,
But yeah.
middle of fucking winter. So for anyone who knows what Canadian Rocky Mountain winter is like, it can be like a total whiteout blizzard when you're driving through
It
it.
could be like a death
So
trap, like honestly.
yeah, it's super dangerous. But anyway, there from where I was and where I had to go, there was two routes that I could take. One was a little bit shorter and the other one was a little bit longer. And so I just asked my body that day, I was like, truth body, which route should I take? And when I looked on like when because you can check the road conditions online, the
Yeah.
one that it said to not take had way better road conditions than the one that it said to take. And I ended up like driving. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to trust my body. So I ended up driving on the longer route, which had the shittier weather. And at one point, I'm driving and I'm like, why the fuck did I fucking choose this route? It was literally like a fucking blizzard. I'm behind these massive fucking semi trucks. And I was like, this sucks. This fucking sucks. Ah! But then
Yeah,
near
fear
the
terror.
end of the route, I come into this like beautiful fucking like it was like serene. It was like the sun is shining. There's like all this snow everywhere, but like completely untouched, just glistening. And I was like, holy shit, this is so fucking beautiful. And then that next week, I found out on the other route there was a massive fucking accident. And the next couple weeks that I drove that route, you
Yeah.
could still see the wreckage on the side of the road smoking. It was smoking for 3 fucking weeks. That's how
Oh
bad it
my
was.
God.
And my body, because I don't, who knows what could have fucking happened? Could I have been in the
Yeah.
wreckage? Could I have just been like delayed with like, whatever
That's
it
interesting.
is? But my
Yeah.
body
I think,
told me,
yeah, I think your body also has this kind of like universal knowing. It has like these like of intuition. And so when like it's so brilliant when you can like check in with that, and then your body is always like looking out for you and like building like
100%.
connection.
Yeah, they've
Because
actually
you
done a
build
study on this.
I've had like little moments too where like that's happened to me too, where I muscle test something on like a choice, and then I just follow like what my body says, even if my brain is like, do it. I was like, no, the body knows. And I just like go with it, and it works out so great. And then the other choice, it's like, oh, like good
Yeah.
thing I didn't do that.
And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes
Right.
logically, your body's
Sometimes it
telling
won't
you to
make
do
sense.
the illogical thing, and you're just like, what the fuck? But if you
Right.
follow that, it will lead you
Uh,
down an amazing path in life.
and
But
then
also, I just want to quickly talk about like they've actually done a scientific study on this to prove that your body knows before your brain knows, where they put people in front of these images, and it was like images that would make you feel kind of shitty and images that would make you feel excited.
yeah.
And they had these devices hooked up to the heart and to the brain. And what they noticed was that the heart, which is aka your body, would anticipate the image that was coming next before the brain even saw it. So
Yeah.
it's like the body literally knew what was coming.
Yeah. Is that's so wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so cool. And I was gonna say too, I feel like the more that you like practice that muscle testing and tuning in, I feel like the more that you do it, the more that you kind of, instead of having to like muscle test on those, the more you have like a knowing, like a quiet inner knowing that you like can trust. And then you're like, hey, yeah, that's like the way. So like now, like also like muscle test sometimes, but now like I just get like this little knowing, and it's like, go left,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, thank you, or
Yeah.
it's like choose this option, and I'm like, okay, or it's like, don't eat this right now, and it's like, okay, and like the more that you practice it, the more that you get kind of in tune with just like your body kind of like talks to you, and then you're closer to it. You have a more intimate relationship with it.
100%. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
have that like knowing feeling now. where
Yeah.
it's like, I know that this is the thing. And sometimes I can't explain it. I'm like, I just know. I don't know how to tell you how I know. I just know.
Yeah, me too. I have like a knowing. I was always kind of born with like this
Yeah.
like knowing. Yeah.
And that goes in actually to the clairs, which again, whole nother episode.
Oh yeah, we can talk a whole other episode on the clair.
I
But
feel like that is my clair. Like some people like hear things or see things or whatever.
what is that clair called?
I feel I'm pretty sure it's clairsentient, the feeling.
Clair sentient or clair cognizant or
No, yes, sorry, you're right.
clair, clair,
Cognizant.
yeah.
Sentient.
I don't know
I
what
don't
that
remember
is.
what the sentient is, but anyway.
Um,
Well, we'll have to look up all the different ones and then like explain them all
Yeah,
in an
yeah.
episode. But I guess
Well,
like just with like summarizing everything.
yeah.
Basically, all I'm trying to say here now is like if you have a feeling of like that maybe your sleep and your energy levels are something beyond the physical, just trust that and know that like there's people here to help you with that. And
Or
I actually just
even if you don't even if you don't know that it's like um that it might be beyond physical, I would just say like to me anything that starts to become chronic, that's like a clear sign straight away that it's emotional.
yeah,
Because the
it's
body
typical.
wants to be well, your body is not broken, and your body should recalibrate quickly if it's a physical issue and you've done something to resolve it. And if it's not resolving, to me, it's just like 100% emotional.
Yeah, and if you just want to know for sure, I'm just going to throw this out there. I will do a complimentary root cause consultation for anyone who wants to know.
Perfect.
Just use the link in our description of our show here and join our email list. And then you'll be able to just talk with me and we can set it up. I will let you know. It will be complimentary. Um,
Is that
and
like
then
unlimited? Anyone who clicks that link, or you haven't like a
um right now in my brain it's unlimited,
okay.
but I'll just put a disclaimer right now that in the future if I gets a little too hectic, there might be I might have to limit it. But for now, I'm just
That's
gonna
a,
anyone who wants it because I could probably do it in like 10-15 minutes.
yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it, people. I want to help the
Well,
people. My
yeah.
my mission is to help at least 10,000 women get sleeping better in the next 5 years. So let's
Yay.
go.
That's a great goal. So for the listeners and watchers, when can they expect your program, your sleep program to launch again?
Yeah, so I had a tentative date for May 1st. To be totally honest with you, I don't know if that's gonna
I was like,
happen.
that is coming so fast in
It's
2 weeks.
like really soon. Yeah.
Life
Um,
gets by, isn't it? Just wild. It just
yeah, but
like how's it? It's almost April 15th. Like how? I don't know.
well, what I will say is if you use that link in our description here and just join our email list, I will give you a definite date so that you know when that's happening. Because there's a
Um,
few things in the works. Like I've already done beta round 1, and so
mhm.
there's the potential for um possibly like people to do a little DIY or whatever. But yeah, the first step is just connect with us that way first,
Yeah.
because then I can
Yeah, connect with
talk
us
with you
so that you can
directly.
like see everything that all of our promos, all of our new content, new episodes, and yeah, just stay connected with us and like
Yeah.
everything that we want to share with you guys to like
So
to help you like to sleep better, to have better relationships, just have like freedom in your life.
yeah, because we're putting out new episodes every Monday and Thursday now. So
Yeah.
that's a great way to stay up to date with that. But we're also throwing out new offers all the time as well. So
And you have to be on the email list to like get those offers.
yeah, you got to be on the email list to like know how to
Yeah.
connect with us for that. But pretty stoked to connect with more people
Me
because
too.
there's a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited. I wish we could just like talk about it all in like one big giant like 6 hour podcast, but that'd
We'd
be
just be like
crazy.
talking like all day. We'd be like, okay,
Take a break.
please, can we
We
just
just take a
take a
break
break?
for lunch. Oh,
Uh,
okay, awesome. So, yeah, and I'm sure we're like wrapping up here soon. Is there any last like comments or things that you want to share about the emotional causes of like insomnia, lack of sleep, like fatigue?
I think I would just say like if you feel like you're constantly exhausted, even after sleeping, like you don't have a lot of energy, you just maybe you
Mm-hmm.
can't fall asleep, you have insomnia, you can't stay asleep,
Yeah.
anxiety, it's almost always relate like they're almost always very closely related
Yeah.
and very easy to dig in and heal.
Yeah. Because
You
who
just got
doesn't
to
want
be
to have
ready
like
and
a
willing.
restful sleep? Who doesn't want to
Oh my
wake
god,
up in
it's
the morning
so
and feel
good.
like rested and feel like energized for the day and like feel like yourself again?
It is honestly like I would before I was like so moody, so fucking moody. I would snap like this,
Yeah.
which I was like this is not me. Like why am I so angry and so like snappy? Because
Yep.
like when I was in my path of life, I was
Yeah.
like do, 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 like so happy and
Yes.
and you know when you're not sleeping you can't focus, you like this affects your relationships, it affects your work, it affects all
Yeah.
parts of your life and
It
also
really
your
does.
body. Like my body was just becoming so weighed down, so unhealthy, so fat. And now like now that I can sleep well, it's like I wake up and I'm just like wow,
You're
a
like,
new
hey,
day.
girl. Yeah. I
It's like
love
I
it.
don't like jump out of bed or anything because like I typically have a pretty deep and restorative sleep, so I wake up and I'm kind of like but you know, I rub my eyes and whatever, but I'm like, feel happy to like start the day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that
It's such a
feels
great
so
feeling.
good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's like that, I don't know if it's like on Netflix or what, but there was like that movie. I was on Amazon Prime. I don't know. There's like that movie about like, did you ever see it where like they didn't sleep? Like there was some sort of thing where like they couldn't sleep
Oh, I think
and
I did.
they were like losing like their minds, like they were going crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
you literally will go crazy if you don't sleep. Like it's
I also just want to preface too and just say, just something about like the sleep. So like, I think it kind of like, for me anyways, when I had like insomnia, I felt like it kind of created this little micro trauma around sleep and not being able to sleep. And so it's like, even if you like heal this and you're like, you get to the root of like the insomnia, I think there's a lot of work to do outside of just like putting your head to the pillow and falling asleep. Because for
mhm,
me, I really had to work through that like fear of like, what if I get to my pillow and I do not fall asleep again? Like, what if I can never actually overcome this, even though I know the work that I've done is is like solid and I am like falling asleep. But there's still like that little piece in there that you have to kind of like really overcome in your subconscious and in your body of like,
mhm,
what if I don't fall asleep? What if I wake up in the middle of the night? And it takes a bit of your own work to like reprogram yourself so that you're not stuck in that pattern of like, well, what if? Because I feel like that will kind of like hold you back too. So you really have to like do the work to reprogram your mind and feel safe that like, yes, now I've done the work and now I've fallen asleep. Because if you don't, let's just say you're sleeping well for like 3 months. You're doing really great. You're sleeping well throughout the night. You fall asleep easily. You stay asleep. You wake up rested and everything. But then maybe, maybe one day you had caffeine a little too late in the day, or, maybe a really stressful day, or like maybe you're like the next day is like really stressful or something. And you have like one night that like you didn't sleep. You wouldn't, if you don't do like the work to like really release and reprogram and like create that safety now, I feel like that could like derail you back to like, oh no, I'm like not sleeping again. Oh no, I've got insomnia. And just, you're like remembering like that micro trauma of like that however long that was you weren't sleeping, it kind of like all comes like rushing back. And you're like, oh my God, oh no, like what if like am I back here? And it's just like creating that like normalcy that like sometimes we don't get good sleep and that's normal.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it is. It's there's so many different factors that can affect it and we're
Yeah.
human, so we're always going to be going through different things in our lives. So just kind of being aware of the things that help and work for you. It's like for me, I know now that like I just am by nature a light sleeper because I feel like I am the protector. So I just accepted and realized that like using a special kind of earplug works really well for me.
Yeah.
And I judged it for so long because I'm like, oh, it's not good for your ears, blah, 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 blah. But like, it works fucking amazing. And I have a great fucking sleep. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
so anyway, yes, thank you for pulling out all those little pieces out of me today. And
Yeah, you're welcome.
I
Thanks for
feel like
sharing
there's still
everything.
so much to talk about
Oh,
on
yeah.
this topic, but we only have so much time each day. But anyway, if anyone listening
Dive
or
deeper
watching
next
has any
week.
questions, feel free to drop us a line
Yeah.
and let us
Yeah,
know.
actually, like, I encourage you to, like, ask us questions so that we can create content that you wanna hear about. We wanna know, like, what your issues are with, like, relationships and sleep so that we can, like, help you better. We wanna know, like, what are you, like, having problems with? What are you trying to, like, overcome?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like we can sit here all day and spew all the shit that we know and what we've helped other people with, but it really
Yeah.
boils down to those that are listening, what they want. So let us
Yeah.
know. We're
Tell
here
us what
for
you
you.
want.
The whole point
Yeah.
is we want to help people. So that's why we're doing this.
Yes. Yay.
All right. Well, thanks
Okay.
everyone for listening.
Yeah.
And
Thank
you're listening
you.
to Yin and Yang Healing.